What is up, y'all? Welcome back to the Angery American Nation podcast, because this ain't just about me, it's about all of us. And we just got the band back together for this one. It's just the guys tonight. We got Mr. Robert Toombs from Mountain Readiness in the house, Mr. Sue LaRue of Mr. Sue LaRue. I mean, what more do you need? And the always fabulous Mr. Donnie Dunn. How the hell you guys doing tonight?
Wonderful.
Fabulous. Fantastic. I talked to you hopping in the suit. How you been, man?
I've been doing pretty good. I'm feeling a lot better. I was diagnosed with a rheumatoid disorder is what it was. Went to the VA. I got back off my trip, and I was just sore. All my joints were sore and everything to where I couldn't even put my pants on. So my wife told me to go to the emergency room, and I talked to a lady there in Asheville, North Carolina at the VA hospital. And she said, "Oh, you got an acute immune disorder." And I said, "I've got AIDS? I never even had sex. How could I have AIDS?" And she said, "No, you're a moron. AIDS is viral. You have a rheumatoid disorder. So put me on steroids. And 2 days later, I feel like going back to the gym and lifting weights. I feel great."
Yeah, that's amazing what the steroids do for that stuff. They'll knock the pain out, but then the steroids are bad for you. So it's like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
They say steroids are bad for you. Whatever.
Yeah. Long term, they are not good for you.
Right. There is that. Long term. Stay away from it.
Long term.
Drugs are bad, children. Drugs are bad.
That's right. Drugs are bad. Drugs are bad. How the hell you been, T? You up there still hammering out knives and warhawks?
Hammering out knives,
shit.
chasing goats, clearing brush. I'm on a 72-hour fast right now. So we're over 24 in, just to reset, clear up the system. And I jump on here and it's like everybody wants to talk about food, just because I'm on this fast. I heard about brisket. I heard about tortillas or whatever that Sue's eating for a third helping. I'm like, oh my God, my stomach is chewing on my backbone right now. So,
well, and I won't tell you about the biltong I'm making tonight. I'll leave that out. So.
Oh man. Angry.
Angry. Yeah, you're not yourself
angry
when you're angry.
But I'm gonna stay strong. It's good for you.
Yeah, it is. 3 days. I can operate on 3 days with no food. I've done it many times. By the fourth day, I start getting pretty grumpy.
Yes,
I'll say that. So,
like I said, 7 days was the max. I went 7 days without food, and at 7 days, you would kill someone for a cheeseburger. I mean, without hesitation. Oh, yeah. It's brutal.
Yeah. If I call you
quick, fast, in a hurry. The comments are filling up with crazy.
Man, what a dude. What
a Amber in the house.
Dang, my own wife. Amber, it's always the one. It's always the one closest to you that will cut you the deepest.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Some of these are great. Damn. Some of these are so good. What would you do for a Klondike bar?
Man,
well,
at this point,
hey Ed, ask him tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah,
what would you do for
it's bad. It'd be bad, but we're still. Yeah. Go to hell. Go to hell there, Pete. Man. It would be killer. Oh.
Oh God. So everybody start DMing T pictures of dinner,
Just pictures of food, just big plates of food and stuff, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay strong. Yep. It's good for me.
Cool. Yeah. I might have a product for us to be repping at Mountain Readiness. It's going to become a thing for us here soon. Working out some details on it, but it's pretty badass, and people are going to like this thing. Getting that put together too. Donnie, how did you drive through the storm, dude? Because you're up in Raleigh, had to come home, and how was the drive?
Yeah, it was cool till I hit like Lakeland, right past Lakeland, and I blew my truck over 3 lanes. I got a gust, and that was a wake up call. Something shrunk real quick. So I was white knuckling the way home, but yeah, it was just really, really heavy rain, and yeah, it was crazy. Not recommended driving through a hurricane.
No, it's never a good idea. Never a good idea. No. So there's so much that we can talk about tonight. I'm gonna pass it to Sue of where we should start with all of the shit that is going on in the world right now. And where should we start off, on the home front or international stuff? Because we know what a shit show the home front is, but still it's worth talking about. So.
Well, you bounced. Your question was bouncing out, but I guess I wanted to start with what I heard on C-SPAN the other day, and then again on talk radio, where Congressman Raskin from Maryland was saying that he doesn't care who wins the election. I think Donald Trump is going to win both the electoral college and the popular vote, no matter how many dead people get a vote on the Democrat side. But Raskin said that on January 6th, he's fears that there's going to be a civil war because he's going to call out and invoke Article 3 or Section 3 of Amendment 14 in the U.S. Constitution, which basically says that somebody that swore an oath to the Constitution has participated in an insurrection. Donald Trump was never charged with an insurrection, so
it wasn't even an insurrection.
I think they showed their backup plan. There is they're going to try to say that Donald Trump is null and void from holding office because he participated in insurrection again on January 6th. When they call, when the time to call up for the electoral count in 2025. So that's
well.
that
What
really
else did he
bothers
say though? What did he say along with that? He said we all need to get protection, talking about politicians, and prepare for civil war. That was the rest of that quote of Raskin's, if you didn't catch it all. So he's openly saying that we're going to start a civil war if he wins the election. We're going to overturn a duly elected president unconstitutionally, and we know it'll create a civil war, but that's our actions.
All the people that are civil don't want to go to war.
No, it'll be
he
a
said those words
uncivil
exactly.
war.
He says everybody's going to need a bodyguard because he fears for a civil war. Sounds to me like he wants to start one.
Yes.
Yeah, he like a great big pussy.
And then you look at
the thing about
Kamala and her VP pick. What do you think about the pictures of him walking around wearing a fifth group hat when he retired out? Before his deployment and all that stuff, Sue. He's getting eaten alive over walking around wearing fifth group shit all the time right now.
We're talking about Waltz.
Yeah.
He was walking around with a fifth group hat.
There's lots of photos on him. The Twitter mill vet community is fighting amongst themselves over this pretty hard, which is kind of humorous. But he claims he was in combat, and he never went to combat ever. But he uses it in his ads and speeches and stuff. He says it all the time. So they're accusing him of stolen valor, and that's the big kind of argument on Twitter right now. Yeah.
So we have another Biden, basically, and delusional. Has no idea what's going on.
Well, the media
support him.
Nobody will counter him in the mainstream media. They'll call him a hero, and he'll run with that card, and nobody other than people on leaning right will talk about it and understand it. I mean, they own the media.
He received an Army Commendation Medal, and the left is just bragging about that. And you can get an Army Commendation Medal for picking up trash if your CO's in a good mood that day. Isn't that right, Sue? An Army Commendation Medal don't really mean shit. That's an attaboy. It's a participation medal.
Maybe he picked up first group's trash.
There you have it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. There's so much. It looks like Am I looking at this right too? California is on fire. They had a 5.2 earthquake on top of being on fire. I guess that's a good place to start.
Yeah. I guess the buddies that Sue just dropped out. Huh? I got some buddies
Sue's
that
gone.
a buddy that just moved out there. He might be in the audience here tonight, maybe. And I feel for him, but he got sent out there by the Corps for I think his last duty station, I believe. And
Man,
but it's just watching now they're saying Harris is pulling in these huge rallies and but when you listen to these two people talk is what gets me. As soon as they open their mouths and start talking, they're not nobody that I would want to represent an HOA, let alone our country. You know what I'm saying?
right.
So we got that insanity.
I just don't quite understand other than blatant. I mean, maybe I'm just a conspiracy theorist, but I have no idea how this is still happening. These people keep going. I don't know how Biden's still doing what he's doing. I mean, the guy, I was watching him. The reporter was asking him, I just saw the other day, or maybe it was this morning, what his thoughts are on what's going to happen when he's gone. And he basically told her, you're stuck with me for another 90 to 100 days. I'm going to do whatever I want to do, is what he said to the camera. I'm like, well, how are these people still here? I don't know.
He also said that if Trump loses, he does not expect a peaceful transfer of power. If Trump loses, he does not expect it. Well, Trump's not in power, so how can he do anything? Yeah. Biden's in office.
I think all he wants to do is eat graham crackers, drink warm milk, and go to the early bird.
Grape juice and prune juice. Graham crackers and prune juice.
Yeah, prune juice. Okay.
Graham crackers. We're in a sad state.
I mean, the United States of America, and this is the best that we got to vote on to run our country.
Across the board, we are a complete laughing stock. There's no doubt about it.
That's a good segue. We are and we aren't. Go ahead and finish that. So we are and we aren't, and I'll explain why in a minute. But go ahead.
Well, I mean, no, jump in there. To me, it's a blatant. It's blatantly sickening. These people they're bumbling idiots. They're Kamala, all of them, her past with basically being a $2 tramp. I mean, this is what we got. This is what's up and coming. I can't see how Putin sits there watching the news and says, "Oh, look, the United States is doing good." I mean, we're the laughing stock. But go with where you're going with it, Chris.
Well, the reason I say that we're not the laughing stock at the minute is because of what's happening in the UK. They're the ones that voted in Labour. It's been 100 days since Labour's taken, and look at the state of the UK right now.
It's on fire.
You've got massive groups of armed Muslims walking with machetes. Now, I thought blades were illegal to carry in England, but they're walking around with machetes and clubs and bats and everything else, and cricket bats and all this stupid shit. And then you get the Metropolitan Police caught on camera with a bullhorn telling the crowd, just discard your weapons at the mosque. We're not going to arrest any of you, but please discard your weapons at the mosque. And then escorting that mob as they go around and assault native Englishmen. And then arresting the native Englishmen if they post videos or anything about the riots online. I watched one earlier today. They sawed this guy's door in half. His front door, sawed it in half, kicked it open to go and arrest him over a Facebook post.
Wow.
So,
I mean, the citizens are rioting too. The British citizens are pissed because this immigration, and that's rampant throughout Europe. They'd like for it to be here, but they just killed those 3 little girls, and they're just done with it. They're just fed up and they're pissed. And the Muslims are counter protesters, but it's ugly right now.
It's real bad. But see, the point I was going to make is that's our future right there. If the Kamala Waltz ticket wins, that'll be our future. That'll be our future. They're going to start trying to treat us the same way.
I agree.
I would say pay attention to what's occurring over there. And when you mentioned Putin, he's kind of got his hands full. I don't know if you guys have been tracking what's happened over there. Ukraine invaded the Kursk region of Russia and has seized a substantial chunk of territory and taken hundreds of Russian soldiers prisoner.
Good.
So they invaded Russia, which to me is hilarious. But it makes me worry that Putin will resort to tactical nukes in theater to stop that, because he's not going to allow anybody on Russia.
And they got their first shipment of F-16s, by the way.
Yep.
Wow.
They do.
That's comforting.
They do have their first. Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay.
Plus, there's rumors that NATO is going to deploy 800,000 troops to Poland to prepare for war with Russia. I've been seeing this in a lot of places and reading about it. It sounds like it's something that they're actually doing. They're forward deploying armor and everything else, getting ready to tangle with Russia. And I don't know if this
the Poles have
they've
massively increased their spending. I mean, they're cranking right now because I guess they're tired of being invaded and conquered and destroyed for 2,000 years. I mean, they've had their fill.
Well, they came out and said recently there will be no more immigration from essentially Muslim nations into Poland. They've locked it down. You're not coming in. They've shut it down. So Poland is very far right, and when I say right, I mean more nationalistic, conservative values, and which you're not supposed to be proud of where you're from. If you're white, everybody else is supposed to be proud of where they're from. And if they're so proud of those places, why the fuck didn't they stay there? Is my question. But
So Chris, Kevin and his girl and the kids just went on a 3-week vacation to East Europe. They went to Prague and, various different nations because his girl's from there, or originally, and her family's from there. And I was talking to Kevin. He's like, all that shit in America with the this and that. And none of that goes on over there. They are not liberal at all. There is none of that craziness that goes on here.
No, it's just watching the tensions boil over. You've got protests in Venezuela. We've got a coup in Bangladesh. You've got Russia, Ukraine, obviously. You've got what's happening in the UK. You've got what's happening here. We've got South Africa. And the one thing people aren't talking about right now, which is China, and that's a huge fucking mess. I don't think people understand how much trouble China's in at the moment. And that thing's about to go. Their commercial real estate market totally collapsed, and 30% of Chinese GDP is based off of real estate. I don't know if people realize that.
Inflated,
it's not exports or anything else. Well, the market was booming, and the market has utterly collapsed. It's gotten so bad now that there are workers in China who have not received salaries in 5 to 7 months. This has now bled over into the civil service and the military. China is not making timely payments to their military. So you've got a massive, I would say they're going into a depression. Probably going to be like, so you'll probably remember the 2 lost decades of China or Japan, in the 90s, 2000s when their real estate market collapsed and it destroyed their economy for 20 years. China's looking at the same thing. But compounding that are the floods that are happening there. People are tracking that stuff. Cities like Shanghai are under severe threat of being completely washed off the map if the Three Gorges Dam gives way, which it is starting to deform now. It reached a max peak of 167 meters of water behind the dam. And the dam is starting to deform. They've got all the floodgates open, flooding every village and town downstream with no warning. They just flooded these people out. There's hundreds and hundreds of deaths. China's another big problem. And the reason I mention that is because when countries get into real serious domestic trouble, what do they always do?
Attack.
Start a war with some damn body.
Isn't that the biggest dam in the world, Chris?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It'll completely wipe Shanghai off the map. If that dam breaks, that city will no longer exist. when it goes.
Yeah, but that's China. That can't happen here.
Yeah, it is China, and they're going to have serious trouble. But look at our economy. I mean, our economy, real estate's 6% of our GDP. But it's not looking good for folks out there. And it's just strange that it's everywhere all at once.
Yeah,
that there was a meme about that. Everything, everywhere, all at once, and it's just yeah. I'm sorry, reading comments. It's just all happening fast. It feels like things are accelerating. The quickening is what I kept calling it.
Yeah.
You bring up a good point, Chris. I mean, I started off with talking about Jamie Raskin, but think about it. If we enter World War III or a simile thereof before November 5th, then they can, Biden, Harris can basically call the or call the elections null and void and just say we're not having the elections. They can, even Lincoln suspended habeas corpus and shut down a bunch of newspapers and everything like that during the Civil War. So if there's fear of a civil war or a world war, we can basically pretty much shut the elections down. And there's actually constitutionally it can pass the Supreme Court muster, or it would take months for it to get to the Supreme Court. So
it would. Yeah,
that's another way the Democrats can hold on to power. And I hate to say it, but this election right now is having international ramifications. Everybody's scared of change of power, the United States for the past, at least 3 years, I say 12 years, the United States has been on a 4-lane highway towards socialism. And I think the rest of the world internationally realizes that, hey, Trump's coming back, and the American people are tired of paying everybody's bills and being the whipping post of the entire world. The United States taxpayer is not going to just hand out free money in the next 4 years, next 5 years. That's basically a mandate saying we're done with this. We're going to take care of America, and America first is a slogan that's resonating across the world. The rest of the world realizes that America is going to pull back and take care of itself first, or at least that's what they're perceiving from us.
Good.
Yeah, because they're afraid that Trump will come back and make NATO start, paying their own bill, and the UN paying their own bill, and all that other stuff. As opposed to a Harris administration where she says that everybody deserves equal outcomes. Socialism, communism talk. Equity. They like to use that word, equity. And equity is not equal. Trying to ensure everybody has the same outcome is not the same as ensuring everybody has the same opportunity, as we well know. And that's what you're supposed to have, is equal opportunity, not equal outcomes, because some of us work harder than others. And why should those that sit around and do nothing get the same as the rest of us? That's how you get a society that does not produce anything, because there's no incentive for anybody to do anything at all. So nobody will.
Hey, Chris, did you see that they're trying to pass through another bill so that Lake City cannot sell ammunition to civilians again, and that's about 30% of the ammo supply.
Well, it is and isn't. And Lake City shut down civilian sales earlier in the year, didn't they, Sue? When last year, I guess October, when that thing kicked off. Yeah, well, Ukraine and Israel, when those two things were real hot, Lake City suspended civilian sales because they just couldn't meet orders for defense contracts. And so they weren't even selling the civilian market. So it's not as big an impact as everybody thinks it is, but it's still shitty for them to do. It's just another chip they're trying to make. I'm gonna be having a podcast here soon where I'm gonna be bringing on one of the partners and legal counsel for rare breed triggers. Where we're going to be discussing their case now that it's kind of settled. I think it's all fully settled with the ATF over their forced resetting trigger being classified as a machine gun, and what they went through to finally get the courts to say it is not a machine gun, and they shut the ATF down. So they beat the ATF in this thing. It's fairly certain it's finally settled. And I'm gonna have him on. We're gonna talk about that as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, because it's just another little win. Because they're trying to take Lake City out of the equation, and anybody else they can, just by death by 1,000 cuts. That's how gun control has always worked. Just what the hell is. And I like seeing stories like this where they won. These guys came out on top of the ATF. Doesn't happen all the time,
Few and far between.
Yeah, and that'll be a good one. And we've got some other plans for that moving forward too. That we might do some other stuff with it as well. But watching I feel for the British people right now. I'm tracking that real close. The fact that you can get arrested in that country for a tweet or a Facebook post while there's people actively in the street hunting you down to beat you. And they're not arresting the Muslims at all. None of them are being arrested. The police are afraid of them. And they won't do anything because they know those guys will fight, but they think they can whip the average Englishman into silence. So much so that the one of their their attorney general is mulling the idea of issuing extradition warrants to influencers and people like that who are speaking out against what's happening in the UK. So imagine somebody in the US who's talking shit about England, them issuing an extradition warrant, and then having to see, is our government going to honor that? Is our government going to send agents to that person's house to arrest them, to extradite them to the UK, to face a trial for a crime that's not even a crime in our country?
Good luck.
But they're actively discussing that right now.
Yeah, and then you go onto the continent there in Germany, and of course it was 2 weeks ago now, but the German police raided 3 of the major mosques in Germany.
Yeah.
And basically for putting out terrorist rhetoric for this whole thing going on in the Middle East between Hamas and Iran and Hezbollah right now. But the German police shut down the 3 main mosques in Germany, which is causing ramifications all over Europe in the Muslim, Muslim enclaves, whether it's Belgium, Germany, France. The Muslims are getting ready. They don't want to lose any traction that they've got in Western society of Western Europe with this mass migration during the last couple decades.
Yeah, and here. I read a statistic earlier that said that the annual immigration to the UK prior to the Muslim invasion, and I'm not anti-Muslim, I'm just putting it out there, I'm just using the word because that's what they are, but was 55,000 people a year in the UK. They now say that 55,000 illegal Muslims enter their country a year on top of their traditional immigration. So they're diluting the pool. And like talking about, they're wanting to arrest influencers, and like Kim mentions, they're even talking about people like Elon Musk, holding him criminally responsible for inciting hate in the UK for allowing people to voice their own opinions. That is considered hate speech in the UK. Even posted videos of armed Muslim gangs walking the street will get you arrested in the UK at the moment. So it's getting ridiculous over there.
I'm glad you're bringing this up because, and that's why a lot of those British journalists come here and work in the United States, because there is no freedom of press or freedom of speech in England. Nope. There doesn't exist. They don't have it.
Well, and that Communications Act they did a while back was the one that basically made it illegal, would make a tweet illegal. And they somehow want to hold Elon Musk responsible for that because the whole world now hates Elon Musk. If you guys recall, when he bought Twitter, they said it was a failing platform. He couldn't save it. It was a garbage thing. And they're all laughing at him. And now those same people are saying that he should be held accountable for holding the most powerful social media platform on the planet and using it for hate speech. Which this whole newspeak thing, this 1984 world that we're in of newspeak and people saying, redefining words, and that everything that is said is racist, because it's not the intention behind the words, it's simply the word now. It's the intention doesn't mean anything. Context means nothing. It's simply the words. And once they assign that these words are bad words, and they're on the newspeak list, you can't use them no more. That's all you're guilty of at this point. Yeah, there's no such thing as modern Muslim. This is true. This is true. Very much so.
Yep.
And like I said, I genuinely fear us going the route of what's happening in the UK right now. If Harris steals this election somehow, and yeah, I'll say steals it because I don't think it'll be. No matter who wins this, as we all know, no matter who wins this, it's going to be contested, and there will be violence as a result of it. That's just a fact. Everybody needs to kind of wrap their head around that idea. There will be no peaceful transfer of power. There will be no peaceful election this year.
No.
So, Chris,
and even if Trump makes it back in, I mean, with the current state of our economy and the U.S. dollar, is it even salvageable in another term? I mean, billions and billions and billions of dollars printed up and thrown all over the world.
Tomorrow, I think it is, our debt hits a new benchmark. Do you know what that is? Our outstanding debt?
Air desk.
35 trillion.
35 trillion. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock, I think, is when it hits that number. That's our. I think about that. That's a number so big people can't wrap their heads around. It's.
I saw what the world debt number was like 370 trillion. That's all the countries of the world. Listen, go back to China. I don't know if anybody's paying attention to the constant conflicts they're having with the Philippines. The Philippines has signed a mutual cooperation agreement with Vietnam. All of these barrier island countries are coming together because they're scared shitless because they know what China's doing. China's bullying. It's just a matter of time till something happens, a miscalculation, something happens, and it's going to turn into a shooting war. They're all scrambling now.
Well, China's trying to strangle Southeast Asia by throttling the Mekong River. So the Mekong River runs through Laos, Vietnam, and they built dams on the Mekong in China, and they're withholding water. They've also stopped sharing rainfall water level information with those nations so that when the Chinese reservoirs fill up, they simply open the floodgates and allow floods to occur in Laos and Vietnam. They're crushing Vietnam's rice production. It's down like 55% year over year because of droughts, and it's destroying their aquaculture, the fish farms and all that stuff. And they're building dams in Laos, China is, and telling them, we'll build these here for you to generate electricity, but we own them for 100 years. They're ours. So why Laos thinks this is a good idea and allows it to happen, I don't know. But so China's using the Mekong to strangle Southeast Asia, and Vietnam is getting extremely, extremely irritated about things.
They kicked their ass in a war 30 years ago.
Yeah,
Vietnam did.
It's not things in Southeast Asia aren't pretty, but China went into the South China Sea and built those artificial islands and stuff, and started stationing military personnel on them. But those islands are starting to sink. A lot of them are falling apart. The buildings are falling apart. The islands are coming apart. So they're in a bit of a pickle there. China is, because much like all Chinese engineering, for some reason they build everything just as shitty as they can, and they just
have no
apart.
creativity. They steal and reverse engineer everything. I mean, look at it, all the way down to like red dot sites. They're basically copies of Aimpoint. I mean, it's what they do.
Yep, they have no original ideas there. It don't seem.
But we are still completely in bed with China as far as the economy and economics. So many people have all their stuff made in China. I mean, it's just true.
Well, but see, manufacturing is also fleeing China at an alarming rate. Foxconn, they're a big cell phone maker, Apple in particular. They left and went to Vietnam and Indonesia, and that was like 100,000 jobs in one city that disappeared. And there's entire cities there now that were once where all these factories were that made everything from toys to consumer electronics to whatever. They've all closed up and left. Siemens just pulled out of China entirely. Siemens has left China. No more
Yeah,
manufacturing
Siemens pulled out.
in China. Yeah, they did pull out. Siemens pulled out. Let me see. What's this? This is probably asked, but who is everyone tonight? I met. Oh, we'll go around the horn again. It was cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Get the who's.
Even though
So,
you
yeah.
were late, even though you were
Yeah,
late,
you go ahead
aim
and
for
start, T. You
survival.
go ahead, tell him who you are, and then and we'll just go around the corner with
Drop
everybody.
down. You bet. Robert Toombs, T with Mountain Readiness, run a get together for like-minded individuals. Actually, there was a comment earlier. The guy said, where do we go to meet like-minded people? You come to Mountain Readiness. There's one coming up October the 18th through the 20th. I can't promise you there's not feds there. There could be. But, hey.
Oh, there will be. There fucking will be.
Feds can come, too. We don't care.
No.
And I will say, all these people over here on the right, man, is talking a lot of smack. I'm getting a lot of smack talk tonight because of this whole fasting thing. But I still love you, Will and Christy and all y'all running those mouths. Pete just sent me a picture of food as well, of course.
Yeah.
What do you send
Nice.
me? I'm gonna look at
what are friends for? What are friends for?
Wow. Good night. I'm gonna tell you that brisket looks spot on, man. Good smoke ring, Pete. Good smoke ring.
Nice.
Bastard.
All right, Sue. Tell them who you are, man. I want to hear this out of your own mouth. This
Before I get started, I want T to turn around so we can see the nipples poking out his back.
Yeah, look at him. See that?
Utterly amazing.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Utterly, yes.
No, I just want to remind all of our viewers to put the word out about this podcast, put the word out about Mountain Readiness, put the word out about Tactical Riflemen. I've had no less than three people stop. This morning, I was cutting my grass on my zero turn. I had a guy stop, come down, said, "Hey, I heard you're a military veteran and everything, and I'm really getting worried about the country." And that's pretty much been the same message from these other two people that just approached me, strangers. They live up the road from me, or they live close around me, but everybody's getting worried. And I say, well, and I keep on reminding them that, or I like I'm trying to remind everybody else, remember what we started this whole podcast about a year ago was we want to develop self-reliant communities. So reach out to communities and say, hey, stop panicking so much. Self-reliance is the ticket, is the key to all this. That's what the government's scared of. That's what the Chinese are scared of. Hell, that's what the British are scared of in their own citizenry. They don't like self-reliant people or self-reliant communities, self-reliant enclaves that just scares them to death. They all want us to stand in line and beg with our hand out and say, oh, what can you do for us? We don't fit into that mold. So everybody reach out to your neighbors because they're all feeling more anxious than you are. And I hope that this podcast is calming everybody down a little bit, and everything that we do or we've done in the last year has given some people at least a fallback plan.
Yeah, don't be black pills, guys. We talk about this stuff not to say it's the end of the world, and when I say like prepare for violence, I'm not doing it from the all is lost standpoint. I'm doing this from the get ready. Just be prepared for it. That's what we're talking about. How we can continue living our lives as all of this shit goes on around us, and those elected representatives of ours do their best to destroy our lives and our economy. Let's get Donnie, and that was Subaru for who was asking. And Donnie, introduce me to who you are and what you don't do, and then we'll pick back up.
Well, hi, I'm Donnie Dunn. I am the Minister of Propaganda for Angery American Incorporated. I enjoy long romantic walks on the beach, pina coladas, and dancing in the rain. I'm a rootin' and tootin' and shooting the son of a bitch now. I have been
so that's who everybody is.
Very serious for many, many years. Good friends with everybody here. Known these guys for many, many years, and we all train together. We do videos together. We hang out, break bread, and basically we've got a tribe, a family, and that's something that's really going to be very important. I mean, we talk about it, and somebody earlier said, how do I meet like-minded people without encountering feds? Well, you just got to meet people, get to know them, be guarded. Don't go in there and go, hey, I got this and this and do this, and get to know people, meet their families, meet their kids. I mean, try to build a fellowship. And listen, all the stuff we talk about, we're just trying to update you because we all have different connections and different bits and pieces that we get that aren't usually available to the general public. And we many times share that among ourselves. But we do support each other, and that's super important. So we try to set an example for that. You got like Sue LaRue and Carl and the Tactical Rifleman crew. Chris is literally an expert on preparedness. And when I say preparedness, it's not necessarily end of the war, zombies, that type of thing. I'm talking about we just got a hurricane in Florida, another one. It could be a natural disaster. It could be power outages, a cyber attack. I mean, preparedness is a lifestyle. It's not something you just run out and do. It's something that you do over a period of time, and really, it's kind of fun. I mean, it's not a bad thing if you pace yourself.
I like the people of this community way better than I like those that are wishing me dead in this country. It's kind of weird.
Yes, that.
But I can relate to these guys. We're the violent right that they're always telling you about. Okay, as you can tell, we're seriously violent. And we burn cities to the ground, and we loot Louis Vuitton stores.
When was the last time you shot somebody, Chris? It hasn't been that long, right?
Well, Troy's Gate was the last time.
Yeah, been a couple months.
We're the least likely people to ever hurt you, rob you, kill you, beat you down. So
where I live right here, my Lake County that I love so much, the heart of Florida here, the center of the swamp, a mile up the road. We just had an officer-involved shooting. We lost a deputy here. We had 3 deputies ambushed, and it was a straight-up ambush. And they killed one, and the other 2 are recovering. One was critical, and one just had a single wound to the arm. And we support that community. Reached out. Is there anything we can do to help the sheriff's office? Other than we're thinking about you guys, and let them know when we see them in public and stuff like that, because we support not only the country but even the idea of our country is what I support more than anything else. Is the idea of what America is supposed to be, and by being prepared for these little things that happen, we can take the burden off of others. Like the hurricanes come through. If you're prepared for a hurricane and you're ready to deal with it, you're not a burden to first responders and emergency services that have to come in and take care of those who were more severely impacted, or those who are utterly unprepared because this country's been conditioned for so long that nothing's your problem. Somebody else will come take care of it. You call a guy, or if you're fighting with your wife, you don't fight with your wife, you call the police and they'll referee for you and take your ass to jail probably. But it's just the idea of being ready so that you're not, number one, to me, is to not be a burden. And number 2, so I can live a little more comfortably when things are going south. If my power goes out of my house because of a hurricane, I'm ready for it. I'm good to go. I'm not going to sit around and sweat in in a hot house because I prepared for it.
Chris, this whole preparedness thing, this is not a new idea. This is the last 50, well, probably 70 years now, in a society where everything is easy, everything's accessible, electricity. I mean, we're addicted to comfort. Our forefathers, even my mother, I'm from Kentucky originally. My mom was raised in Chicken Bristle, Kentucky, on a tobacco farm. And just talking to her, I mean, she always kept in our basement, tons of canned food and she used to can. And I asked her one time, I'm like, Mom, why do you keep all this food? This is years and years ago. She's like, because I know what it's like to go hungry. And that resonated with me. Everybody used to cut wood. They stored food. People in rural areas, Alaska and stuff, they make ready for the winter. Preparedness is not a prepper thing. It's not a new thing. It's just us getting back to how we used to live. Our grandparents, our great grandparents. And, it's not such a crazy idea. And they try to villainize this because of it. And you're right, Chris. They don't want us to be independent because you can't control independent people. And
No.
the writing's on the wall. It's all about control. Look at England. Look at France. Look at Sweden, Norway. They think they live in this great paradise, but with somebody telling you what you can and can't do, can and can't say, is that really living? Is that really paradise? I would rather have a rough, dangerous existence than a life of comfort and submission. I mean, being prepared is like buying insurance. You buy car insurance, you buy home insurance, you do all these things. That's all it is. And
Yeah.
Don't let them fool you.
Actually, this idea of just-in-time inventories in these huge cities where more people are packed into smaller footprints of land, violating laws of nature, carrying capacity, things like that. That's the outlier to human existence, because humans have always had to gather, hunt, and gather. Hunt or gather. That was it. You had to go get it and yourself. And this idea of now we have a society where nobody produces anything for themselves. And that's how they want it, because they keep you dependent on the system. But the system is so fragile and complex that it's insane, and we're seeing ramifications of the complexity. If China really falls apart, like there's a serious chance that country could absolutely collapse just from the economic weight and then the natural disaster situations hitting them. That'll reverberate around the globe. I mean, think of the impact that would have globally, because like you said earlier, Donnie, and it's true, a lot of stuff is still made there, but a lot of the high-end manufacturing is leaving China. It's the lower-end stuff that is still being made there. But it'll still have a global impact, because Walmart, I don't know what the hell they would sell if China goes out of business.
Dollar General would be out of business.
Dollar General.
You saw the Japanese stock market had a big crash, and that daisy chain to the rest of the world. I mean, we're all interconnected economically. So you're absolutely right, Chris.
Yeah, it'll be huge if things go the way it's looking. I can't say it's going to go that way, but it's sure looking like it's going to go that way. And if Putin decides to lob a tactical nuke into Ukraine to stop this incursion into Kursk, that's going to probably be the initiation to World War III, because everybody will claim that's a bridge too far. He can't do that.
Any nuclear exchange is likely. Did you read Annie Jacobson's newer book? I mean, she's on every podcast known to man. I thought she'd be on here talking about this book, Nuclear War, and it's scary as hell. I mean, she really did her homework. I read it, or I listened to it. It's an excellent book, and we're just one misunderstanding, one mistake, and it's almost happened many times. North Korea, they just brought 250 missile launchers to the DMZ. I mean, shit's getting ready to step off. It sure feels like. I mean, we've been in this game a long time. We used to be amped up at first. I know a lot of you are just getting into this, get kind of frazzled. Then after a while, nothing happens. You reach a point where you start learning to love the bomb, for lack of a better term. I did. I thought for sure the world was going to end many times, but something will happen, and we probably won't know when it happens. And the stage is set right now. Wars and rumors of wars. There's the Israeli thing, which could turn into something really, really ugly. You got China flexing, you got North Korea, and multiple other spots going on, right? Nobody's talked about Pakistan and with their nuclear arsenal, and one of the top 10 militaries in the world. India is amped up. So let's just pray, because listen, if you think you're going to survive a full nuclear exchange, I got news for you. You might as well start a Glock, because unless you're super rich with a bunker in the middle of a mountain in New Zealand, you're pretty much screwed.
Yeah. Someone here talking about the recession, us, the country going into a recession. Yeah, that's just the one I was talking about, I think. I believe personally that the Democrats are going to intentionally nuke the economy on their way out the door, so they can spend the rest of the next 4 years blaming Trump for it.
Sure.
They'll just say it was him the whole time, even though
Like
we can all see plain as day where we are right now, what things look like, and where it's going, and it's not going anywhere good.
Yeah, that's what I'm running with. I've said that over and over again. I think he is the fall guy. If he gets in, it will be his fault.
So you hearing from Emory?
Well,
Christy's asking over there.
I hate to remind everybody, but I said last winter, I said it doesn't matter who wins the election. One side of this, 50% of this country is going to be fighting mad at the other 50%, and most of it's propaganda. I mean, there's no reason
It's
to
all
fight
propaganda
over it, but I can see it coming on, and this goes all the way back to, and I wish I had the book here with me, but I read this book called The Unvanquished. The Confederate Secret Service tried to do this during the Lincoln administration out of Montreal, Canada. They actually controlled the press, bought the press off with lots of gold, lots of money, put negative advertisements in all the newspapers, which was the internet back then, 1864. And they pretty much said that Lincoln didn't want to negotiate a peace, and Lincoln wanted to drag this war out forever, and Grant was losing too many troops. And Lincoln almost lost re-election. He almost lost re-election. If Sherman hadn't made it to Atlanta and secured, a possible closing to the war before the election, Lincoln might not have been reelected because of just the same tactic that they're using, and they're using today. And I always relate the Democratic Party to the Confederacy, which for good reason. I mean, historically they are, but
Yeah.
they're doing the same thing. They control the media, and it's causing everybody to panic. And that's what I just like I was saying before. That's what I enjoy being part of podcasts like this and Tactical Rifleman and everything. We tell people, hey, don't panic. Don't panic. You can't control, I can't reach out to Washington, D.C. and put in my opinion, and T can't, go to the governor's office and say, well, that's not going to work. We can only control our immediate surroundings, and then we network out, and we let everybody, or we let the government that's supposed to protect us, we remind them that you're the only reason you exist as a federal government is to protect the people. I think to your point, Chris, that's what the British have lost. They're supposed to protect their people. If you want a government to collapse, stop protecting the people that pay for you to exist.
Yep. And did you hear that the FBI is getting ready to restart briefings with the social media companies over misinformation, election misinformation, of course, just like they did in the last one.
Yeah, they're going to try to control the media. They're going to try to control propaganda. The problem is they can't. I mean, we're all entitled to our opinions. Some of us will go to jail. I'm not scared of going to jail. I mean, if I'd be better off than T, at least I get 3 meals a day there.
3 hots and a cot.
I would.
I thought you were going to say T would be very popular, very loved in jail.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah, I mean,
I am too pretty for prison still at this point, unlike the other 3 on this panel.
You prefer syrup or jelly?
You want to be the husband or you want to be the wife?
No, dirty mouth, boy.
I mean, there's a ton of people in jail that shouldn't be in jail right now, just from that day that should not be mentioned. The insurrection. I mean, did they ever look that up? Actually look that up in the dictionary?
I don't think they knew what the word mean. It doesn't matter what words mean. They apply their own meaning to them.
They make up new words.
And make up new words. Have you guys seen the whole Cori Bush thing? She lost her re-election bid. Did you see her concession speech or catch any of that?
Mm-hmm.
Where she said that she has been radicalized and she is coming to tear it down. Ooh, yeah. But see, they use language like that, but then accuse us of being violent. The ones that stayed at home and didn't loot and burn in 2020 and didn't attack Portland or Seattle or New York or the White House or Maryland. We didn't do none of those things. It was all the other side of the fence, but yet we're the violent ones. And that's just that projection thing. Always accuse the other side of what you're actually doing.
White supremacists are the threat. Go on Facebook if you're on Facebook and peruse some of the sites. And the people that support the left are the most vicious, vile, regurgitating, spoon-fed, just constantly, dude. And what I've seen is the more educated people are, the more susceptible they are as a rule to it. It's usually the lower income people that are going, hey, we're getting screwed here. Maybe they're full of shit. Just like the Black community is, I think, really coming around and finally realizing that, you know, they're being duped, they're being used. I mean, they should be furious. Just the way they've been manipulated and taught, just like Sue was talking about the Democratic Party. I mean, the Democratic Party was the most racist, vile, hateful group. And over the last, 50, 60 years with media, they've convinced the public that it's the Republicans who were the most fair people that tried to end slavery. I mean, it's preposterous, and once you see through it, you can't unsee it. But yeah, the left.
Yeah, the progressive left too. The thing that people need to pay attention, and you can see this with your own eyes. They say the Supreme Court is corrupt because the Supreme Court never sides with them. They say the Constitution is wrong because it doesn't agree with their interpretation of things. Everything, all the rules have to change in order for them to be able to win in their terms, because this country isn't designed to conduct business the way they want to. It's about individual liberty, right? Individual liberty. It's clearly stated right there. And that's the one thing that the left really hates. They want to take away individual liberty. They want a bunch of folks that will tote the party water and do as they're told. And when we look around the world where that's taken place, the communists, when they came into power in Russia, like the Khmer Rouge, Pol Pot, you can name all these people who, if you said the right words and you acted the right way, you're good. But if you even resisted a little bit, you're just put up against a wall, And the useful idiots forget that the revolutionaries are always the first ones to be put against the wall after the revolution, because those that take power know that they did it once, they'll do it again, and we got to get rid of them.
I mean, look at what's
we've already been through a dress rehearsal. All of us went through COVID, right?
Yeah.
I've said it on here before, but there's basically 5 things in the First Amendment of the Constitution: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, right to assemble, freedom of the press, and the right to have a grievance against the government without fear of that government, charging with something.
Yep.
All 5 of those things were violated during COVID, right?
Yep.
So no more COVIDs. I don't care what the reason is, whether it's economic, a pandemic, a nuclear war, whatever. Do not allow you and your families and your neighbors to be duped into another COVID. They're just, it's pure bullshit. And we all know it now. We all lived it, and we all saw that it was bullshit, so. And the ones that crack me up, I mean, you can go to the grocery store. I'm sure you guys have them in your communities too. Go to the grocery store, go to Walmart, go to a restaurant, and the people that are still wearing masks, I just want to laugh at them and say, hey, even Fauci said those don't work. Why are you wearing a mask?
He finally came out and admitted they made it all up. They made up the 6-foot thing. They made up the mask thing. And when the mask mandate first came out, when I first heard them say that, I'm like, this is retarded. I'm like, if I need a water filter that will filter down to 0.1 microns to keep viruses out of the water I drink, then I need a mask that will do the same thing. And there isn't a cloth paper mask N95 on this planet that will do that. That takes an actual respirator, a real filtration system. But everybody gobbled it up. And you still, like you said, you still see those morons walking around today, driving around in their car by themselves, wearing masks. But that's how easily manipulated the entire world was, because everybody went for it. And now you still hear people talking about anti-vaxxers this and deniers that. And they said follow the science. But if you actually followed the science and not just the propaganda they were putting out labeled as science, it was very easy to figure out all this is bullshit. All of it was.
Well,
and I was saying that from day one.
Remember my friend Kyle who worked for the CDC? Remember?
Yeah, yes.
Remember that story? He went up resigning because they I could talk about it now. He was the guy was a science teacher, and all he wanted to do is work for the CDC, like outbreak. And he went to school at night and got his PhD in infectious diseases, got a job because most of the CDC are subcontractors. We're doing tests in the 3-man team. Then they had to upload it into a server. So the leader of his team went in one night because he forgot to put something in, downloaded, looked at it, it'd been modified, freaked them out. So they all got together. They go, "Did you put that in? Did you put that in?" It was they were putting up stuff that would kind of minimize the effects of COVID, and it was all modified. And they were so freaked out that they went to a friend of Kyle's that he went to high school with that worked for the Department of Justice, took the tape, presented the information. He's like, "Oh my God, that's terrible. We're going to look into this." Never heard back from him. So 2 weeks later, he resigned.
They kind of did hear back from him in a way, but you're right. What they were doing was they were taking the data and inflating the numbers, I mean, massively over what was actually coming up in the testing. And they did turn it over to the Department of Justice, who said they'd look into it. 2 days later, while he was at work, the klaxons went off. He's in a level 3 biohazard lab. So that means you've got 90 seconds to get out. Everybody had to leave, and a burn team went into that lab and torched everything. And when I say a burn team, I mean just that. They destroy everything from it. Sue, I'm not drunk, and I'm not going to continue doing your tests.
No, what I want to remind everybody was, why did COVID happen? We got to remember why COVID happened. It wasn't a fluke. It was a geopolitical con job. Why did it happen? Because we were almost 3.5 years into a runaway economy where everybody was doing great, wages were up, and the rest of the world, who wants to lean towards socialism and a few elite control their entire country, the rest of the world was looking at America and saying, "Hey, that works. That worked. Look what America's doing. Look what Donald Trump's doing to America. Look what the American people have."
Yep.
They took they deregulated everything. They reduced their taxes, and now everybody's living good. They need people to work. That's what happened. And once Donald Trump came out on the news and said, I was laughing at Nancy Pelosi when she said, "Well, I can't believe we couldn't impeach him. I don't know why the Senate didn't impeach." The next news article was like, "Hey, there's this flu-like thing coming out of China called COVID." And I was like, what's going on? Why did that happen all of a sudden? I'm convinced that it was a geopolitical con job to shut down everybody's economy.
Of course it was.
And a test run. It was a test run too, to see how far they could push people and how much they would take. And they were surprised. They were overjoyed at just how far they could go. They had no idea that people were going to be that gullible, malleable. Yeah, just that soft.
I always loved walking through Wally World and seeing the guy with the 9-line 3%er shirt with a mask on.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing that we just talked about with my friend, that wasn't some conspiracy bullshit. Chris was involved. Chris spoke with him, and this is a good friend of mine and probably one of the most solid Christian, amazing father, steward of his community. This actually happened in play-by-play. And I mean, Chris and I were on the phone with him and texting him because he was freaking the hell out. So I mean,
he was like, he was looking to hide. Like he was looking to hide and shit. And we asked him. We said, so what is this virus? He's like, because they had live samples in their lab. He goes, "Dude, I've looked at it." He goes, "It's nothing more than the flu." He's like, "It's not that big a deal." He goes, he said, and it's man-made. He goes, "We can tell that for a fact." Yep. So we knew this back when it first started, like at the very beginning. We knew these, and I was talking about it and saying it then too. You can go back and look if you want to dig back. We were putting it out there because, I had a heads up that the lockdown was coming a couple weeks before it occurred.
Remember,
and I was telling people, everybody told me I was crazy.
Yeah. Like 2 weeks before it happened, you pulled your trailer over and we were loading food and shit into your trailer to take it out to the Alamo. I mean, guys, this isn't, remember this is not, and this is not some conspiracy shit we saw on YouTube. This isn't QAnon this is real world things that we
It
heard
happens.
from the horse's mouth. And Kyle, my friend, is not the person that would ever do that. And I think you talked to him enough, Chris, to see that. I mean,
Oh yeah, no. No,
the
he was,
guy's
he was a good dude, and he was afraid. He was genuinely afraid of what might happen to him as a result of what he did.
Now he does
So he
cancer
was-
research for children,
Yeah.
because he saw how
So good
corrupt it
on
was.
him.
He's like, I can't work for this. Like, it's because it's not really science. They say trust the science, but don't trust the scientists because they're all political. I mean, scientists hold science back. All they want to do is worry about their careers and funding and money and not go against the grain, because the minute you go against the grain, they jump on you like a swarm of piranhas and destroy your career and destroy you. So don't trust the science. Don't trust the scientists.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs when we all know that we live in a world where we have no way to find absolute truth about anything, because Google controls search results, and and all the social media companies control everything. They control information. So we actually have a ministry of information now in this country. It's a technocracy. It's a tech companies. It's not a government agency. It's not us doing it. But like I said, the FBI is starting briefings with social media companies again about misinformation for the election.
Oh boy.
So when you know that everything you hear is propaganda in one fashion or another, and you have no real way of determining the truth unless you were there and saw it yourself,
Yeah.
It's kind of a
That is
terrifying
true.
world to live in.
And Chris, you have several contacts in different areas that read your books, and which is kind of a great, because you become a canary in the cage, and you have people clandestinely send you messages and let you know things, just like the lockdown. Nobody had any idea about a lockdown. You called me that day. You're like, dude, here's what's going to go down. I'm like, get over here and let's push. And Joey, we push supplies, man, out there. And sure as shit, here it comes. And I mean, they put curfews where you couldn't leave your house. I said, fuck it. I strapped on my pistol and grabbed my dogs and went for my nightly walk without a mask. I mean, piss on them.
Yeah, it was absurd.
Exactly.
And hopefully, and like Sue says, hopefully people don't fall for it again. And we'll see through the bullshit on the next one, because we know there's another one coming. I mean, they're always priming us up for the next thing. I'm just, the global temperature, and I don't mean climate change temperature. I mean like the people's temperature seems to me to be increasing rapidly right now. Because again, like I said, all the places I rattled off earlier where protests are happening, and wars are heating up, and wars are going to potentially break out, and it's just getting hotter everywhere around the globe right now.
I'm looking for a false flag if the election doesn't look like it's going to go their way of some type. And I know that's a broad conspiratorial term, but it's true. I mean, COVID was a false flag. I mean, certainly people died from it. And I don't want to take anything away from the people that did leave, but a lot of people were said to have died of COVID that didn't die of COVID. That's been documented. I mean, it was an absolute farce and a horrible thing. And I'm so sorry for anybody. And I know people that lost husbands and wives and grandparents and parents, and definitely a bad disease. But it was we heard it from the horse's mouth, got PhD in infectious diseases. We know this is man-made. Nobody will talk about it. It's driving us crazy. All of it. It was common knowledge within the scientific community, but yet nobody would speak. Nobody would stand up.
They weren't allowed to. They would get. They
get destroyed.
They would.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
And a lot of the sadly, a lot of the people that died from COVID were killed by the treatment, because they wouldn't allow the proper treatments. They knew things like ivermectin and that shit worked. It did work.
Worked for us.
I purchased from my doctor a kit for this disease when it was kind of raging everywhere, and it was ivermectin and a couple of other things that you take, zinc, and a few other things, and an antibiotic. But they wouldn't allow that. What they would do is wait till you had severe pneumonia, put you on a ventilator, because the federal government was incentivizing hospitals. They would pay, I think it was $15,000 a patient if they went on ventilators, that they would pay the hospital like immediately for doing that. Mm-hmm. And then you remember there was the big rush on ventilators. There were no ventilators nowhere. And then China jumped into gear, started producing ventilators, which would catch on fire, The whole thing was just a farce. It's
And the toilet paper, man. So it was funny when COVID started. I had cases of toilet paper and a case of N95 mask. I'm like, this just another day. Hey, Chris, I probably shouldn't say it in public, but listen, P. Diddy called me the other day and said, hey, if shit gets real, he's going to send his plane in to pick us up and take us down to a private island. So just let me know. He's got us.
Cool. I like it. Let's do it. Well, T, you got anything you want to close out with tonight, man?
You know, what Sue said a year ago, this podcast is about people getting informed and coming together and not being scared. And, it's real easy. It is important what is going on in the world right now, in the United States and worldwide. But I think it's important that we focus on what we can personally control. And people they get caught up in what's going on. Oh, this, and they get scared. Look, guys, our grandparents did it, our great-grandparents. For thousands of years, we've been doing what we haven't been doing for the past 100. All right.
Yeah.
It's time to get back to that and start preparing. And I'm not saying prepare for the end of the world. I'm saying prepare for bad times, because bad times may be a recession. Bad times may be the power goes out because of a hurricane. Bad times, there's many forms of bad times. I think something that people fall short on too, and myself, is when we have these nice, happy places in life, we get laxed. We get laxed and we forget that preparedness doesn't stop just because things are good. You don't eat up all of your reserve. You keep adding to it. So I'm hoping that things go for the better and we get some good years ahead of us. Maybe not, but it really doesn't matter. And I'll say one last thing before I turn the mic off, and that is, guys, this world was designed, this last 100 years at least, to get you to chase money. All right. I'm not saying we don't need jobs. I'm not saying that we don't need money. We need to pay the bills. It's the way the world has been designed at this point. But if you have the abilities to cut out of just chasing that dollar and start focusing on things at your home, like gardens, livestock, you supplement that income, and then you're working on those preps, and you are spending quality time with your family. That's what your focus should be. Working less on accumulating stuff and pieces of paper with dead people on it, and accumulating a homestead, because that's where it's going to be. And last but not least, reach out to your neighbors, if anything else, to see what kind of people they are. Because if I have really bad neighbors, I want to know now. And really good neighbors are going to be hard to discern and to define as a good neighbor when shit's already hit the fan. But that's it. Don't be scared.
Absolutely. I agree. Sue, what do you got, man?
Yeah, I just want to kind of caveat what he said. Know your neighbors. I know my neighbors, and I know if hard times come, it'll end up like Chris Weatherman's or Angry American's book 2. I know what's going to happen to some neighbors real close to me, but and if you guys don't know what's happened, you got to read the book. But
that's right.
Anyway, I think everybody forgets the little Sunday school. For you guys that are Christians, we forget our little Sunday school lesson on Joseph. Remember the coat of many colors and everything, and his brothers were jealous of him, threw him in a well. And then he was taken into Egypt, sold into slavery, and he could interpret dreams. And the Pharaoh had a dream of, and Joseph interpreted, said, hey, you're going to have 7 bad years. You're going to have 7 good years. You're going to have 7 bad years. So prepare in the good years for the 7 bad years. That's all this podcast is. We're just saying, hey, live a good life, but you know, and all the hard work that you do and everything, at least store things up that are tangible that you can reach out and touch and take care of yourself, your family, and your community. You know, and like right now, I'm building an outdoor fireplace, and I had another neighbor say, "Why are you building an outdoor fireplace? I didn't think you were a yuppie." And I said, "I'm not a yuppie." He says, "Well, that's what yuppies do, is have outdoor fireplaces." I was like, "Well, next summer, if we don't have electricity, I don't want to cook inside my house in a place that's too hot to sleep in it. I'm going to go outside and cook." He goes,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's a good point." So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm enjoying myself, and I'm actually learning how to do something, and I've learned so much in this last year just off of everybody that I'm associated with here, and at Fallout and at Mountain Readiness, and I'm like T said, it's my little homestead, it's my little part of the world, but I actually I enjoy living like this, so I appreciate it.
Amen. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey, Sue, have you had any contact with Emery, Sue? A couple of people have asked in the comments, and
1 week ago, he did call me. He's still in the South.
yeah,
He's doing fine. He's not getting enough action, but
no, he's not.
he's bragging that we're bragging about cooking. I guess the crew that he's running around with, they all take turns cooking. So I guess they got some good cooks on a hobo stove.
Nice. Yeah, he sent me a couple pics and some info, and so he's doing well. He's in good spirits. Although, like Sue said, he is a little, he feels like he's missing the big game. So, but he's in it. He's in it.
Before his neighbors go, I'm trying to find all the fat people in my neighborhood, and I just ordered 101 keto recipes for cannibals. So that's kind of my plan. I got plenty of rice and shit to fatten them up. Yeah, I mean, you got to think ahead. That's a joke, by the way.
Push all those carbs. Push those carbs.
Push those carbs. You can do a lot of rendering on them too.
Cook them. I'm gonna get some lessons from Russ.
Long pig. They say you do it. Get
bring a pit in the back. Get some apples for the mouth, some lemons. I mean,
yeah, let's keep talking about food and cooking. He's really enjoying this during his fast.
I gnaw on somebody's arm at this point. I ain't gonna lie.
and right before we go, guys, I want to give a big shout out to Russ in the background, who's always hiding back there, doing his thing, keeps things running. He is up with our good buddy Pete Robert Tucci in the Great White North, working hard. It's hard catching and cleaning all those fish and drinking all that whiskey and smoking all that
brisket, laying around eating brisket.
So I just want you guys to keep him in your thoughts. He's having a hard time up there. But I wish I was here with you guys, and I'm glad you two got some vacation time and you're hanging with Pete. I mean, I couldn't imagine a better time, really.
High in the low 70s, low in the 50s in August.
Yeah.
And brisket.
Yeah, it's
all at the same time.
Yeah, and he's suffering, but he's a trooper. He's gonna pull through. So anyway, guys, we appreciate y'all being here and hanging out with us. Like I said, this thing is informational, informal is what we want. Lighthearted, but giving you the things that are happening, our takes on them, and what we could do about them, and what we could do to prepare for them. Don't be black-pilled. It's not the end of the world. And even if it is, you're going to live through it. So you might as well approach it with the right attitude, improvise, adapt, and overcome. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's all any of us can do. So, guys, thanks for being here tonight. We'll catch you guys all next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And you know the drill. Be good or be good at it.
Love you.